Chuka's home was peaceful, loving, safe, until one day, his childhood love walked back into his life. If only he knew what that first visit would cost him. If only he knew what one catch-up would become. Chuka and Mira were admired by many. They were comfortable, attractive, and deeply in love. The kind of couple people pointed at and whispered about with quiet envy. After 1 year of marriage, their joy deepened with the birth of their first daughter, Zara. Zara brought light into their home. She laughed easily, spoke early, and wrapped her parents around her tiny fingers. Chuka called her his crown. For 3 years, their world felt complete. After Zara's third birthday, Mira discovered she was pregnant again. Happiness filled their lovely home, though this time it came with silent prayers. Mira prayed endlessly for a baby boy because Chuka was the only son of his parents, and she was scared that soon his people would begin to question. When the baby arrived, the room held its breath. It was a girl. Her heart sank just for a moment, not from lack of love, but from the weight of expectation. Another daughter. She forced a smile, swallowing disappointment as tears filled her eyes. Then the baby was placed on her chest, warm, breathing, alive. Love came anyway. Chuka laughed through tears, lifting his hands in gratitude. They named her Zika. She was small but strong, her cry sharp and fearless. A few days after the delivery, Mira started bleeding non-stop. Mira was rushed to the hospital. Doctors rushed in. Machines filled the room with urgency. Mira survived, but the news that followed cut deeper than pain. The doctor explained that complications during childbirth had damaged her womb. Mira would never conceive again. The news broke Mira deeply. It sank into her like a stone dropped into deep water. At night, when the house was quiet, the thoughts became loud. She thought about the sons she would never have, about her husband's lineage ending with daughters. What hurt her most was her mother-in-law, always saying she couldn't wait to carry many grandsons, how she spoke as though it was already certain. Mira smiled during the day, cared for her daughters, but inside she was breaking. Fear followed her everywhere. Fear that one day Chuka would resent her and bring another woman into their home. Fear that love would not be enough. Chuka noticed the change, the quietness, the forced smiles. One evening, he sat beside her and held her hands. "You are not broken," he said softly, "and you have not failed me. We are in this together," he assured her. Mira cried as she told him her fears, the pressure, his mother's words. Chuka listened patiently, then looked her in the eyes. "I did not marry you for sons," he said. "I married you for love. These girls are enough for me, and I promise to always stand by you." For the first time in months, Mira felt her heart breathe again. One afternoon, Chuka had stopped at the mall to pick up groceries. Milk, bread, fruits, the simple things that kept life moving. He was halfway down an aisle when he heard his name spoken in a voice that felt strangely familiar. "Chuka!" He turned. For a second, time folded in on itself. Annabelle stood there, holding a shopping basket, eyes wide with disbelief. Older, yes, more polished, but unmistakably her. The girl he had loved recklessly in secondary school. The girl whose laughter once followed him everywhere. They stared at each other, stunned, then laughed at the same time. "Is it really you?" she asked. They stepped aside, blocking no one. Yet, suddenly unaware of the world around them, words tumbled out. She had been sent abroad after secondary school to further her education. New country, new life. I looked for you when I got back, she said quietly. You didn't even tell me before you left Nigeria. Chuka replied. The truth hung between them, unexamined. They talked for a long time about life, about the strange way destiny moved people apart and then placed them face to face again without warning. Eventually, reality tapped them on the shoulder. They exchanged numbers. Let's catch up properly one day, Annabelle said, almost casually. Chuka hesitated for a breath too long, then nodded. Yes, that would be nice. They parted with polite smiles, each walking in opposite directions. Yet something lingered in the air, unfinished. As Chuka drove home, memories crept in, uninvited. Late afternoons, under mango trees, shared notebooks, promises whispered with teenage certainty. He smiled at a red light before realizing it. Across town, Annabelle drove too, her fingers tight on the steering wheel, a soft smile playing on her lips. She remembered how he used to listen when she spoke, how safe his presence had once felt. When Annabelle got home, she sat alone in her living room. The lights dim, the city humming softly outside her window. Her house was beautiful, expensive, quiet, too quiet. Her thoughts drifted back to the mall, to Chuka's smile, the way his eyes softened when he saw her, the way the years had melted in seconds. He was married now. She knew that, but the knowledge did not stop her heart from racing. She walked slowly across the room, a glass of wine in hand, replaying every word they had exchanged, every laugh, every pause that felt unfinished. He still feels something for me, she whispered. Annabelle had built a good life for herself, yet there was no man beside her. And right now, she was sure Chuka was the man for her. She did not care about boundaries that stood in her way. Chuka had once been hers, and she decided, sitting there in the quiet, that she would do whatever it took to make him hers again, no matter what stood in the way. Then, one quiet weekend, Chuka was in the living room, half watching television. When his phone rang, the name on the screen made his chest tighten. Annabelle. He hesitated before answering. Chuka, she said softly. I was wondering if you could come over this weekend so we could properly catch up. Chuka hesitated, just for a moment. Then he agreed. Just 1 hour, he promised himself. He would go catch up with her a little and leave. No emotions. No crossing lines. The decision felt small at the moment, almost harmless. As he prepared to leave the house, Mira asked casually, "Where are you going?" The question caught him off guard. In all their years of marriage, Chuka had never lied to his wife. Not once. But the words came out anyway. A business meeting, he said. Mira nodded without suspicion. That trust stayed with him as he stepped outside, heavy and uncomfortable. Annabelle's home smelt expensive. Soft music played in the background. Everything looked carefully arranged, as though nothing in her life was out of place. When she opened the door, Chuka froze. Annabelle looked stunning, confident, beautiful in a way that demanded attention. Her dress fit her perfectly. Her smile was slow, knowing. You look good, Chuka, she said, stepping aside to let him in. So do you, he replied, his voice lower than he intended. She hugged him a little longer than necessary. They sat, they talked, At first, it was innocent. Laughter from old school days, memories of shared notes, secret jokes, teenage dreams that once felt unbreakable. You were always quiet, Annabelle teased. But you listened. I still do, he said, and meant it. She moved closer as they talked, gradually, each step feeling natural, even though it wasn't. Are you okay? She asked suddenly. The question hung between them. Chuka didn't answer immediately. He thought of Mira, of Zara and Zika, of home, of his promises to Mira. Okay, he said. Annabelle smiled, but her eyes searched his face. You don't sound sure. She didn't ask about his marriage. She didn't mention boundaries. She didn't care that he belonged to another woman now. One moment bled into the next. A touch that lasted too long. A look that said too much. The line disappeared quietly, without announcement. Later, Chuka stood at the door, his heart pounding. The silence was heavy now. This was a mistake, he said softly. Annabelle shrugged lightly. But I enjoyed it, and I know you did too. He drove away with his hands tight on the steering wheel. The excitement was gone, replaced by shame, by regret that pressed against his chest. When he got home, Mira smiled and asked how the meeting went. Fine, he said, avoiding her eyes. That night, sleep refused to come. Weeks on, Chuka grew distant. He was still present, still helped with the girls, but something in him had pulled inward. His laughter came late. His smiles felt practiced. When Mira spoke, he listened, yet his eyes sometimes drifted, heavy with thoughts he refused to share. It wasn't lack of love, it was guilt. Guilt sat on his chest, like unfinished business. Mira noticed. She always did. One evening, as they sat quietly, she asked, Chuka, are you okay? He looked up quickly, almost startled. Yes, I'm fine. You've been distant, she said gently. Did I do something wrong? No, he replied too fast. It's just work pressure. She accepted his answer, though it didn't fully settle in her heart. She asked again another day, and another. Each time, the same response, work, stress, nothing serious. Chuka had stopped picking Annabelle's calls. He let them ring until silence returned. He told himself it was over, that it had been a mistake he would bury and never return to. Blocking her felt unnecessary. Ignoring her felt safer. Then came the day everything cracked. Mira's network had been unstable all morning. She needed to send a quick message and ask casually, Can I use your phone? Sure, Chuka said, not thinking. She sat beside him, scrolling, focused on her task. Then the phone buzzed. A message from Annabelle. Mira didn't plan to read it. It appeared on the screen. Impossible to ignore. Please, pick my calls. Chuks, I miss you. I keep thinking about that moment we shared. I'm sorry for everything, but I don't regret it. I love you so much. The room spun. Mira's hands shook as she stared at the phone. 5 years of trust collapsed into one sentence. She had never checked his phone, never doubted him, never imagined this. She looked up slowly. Who is Annabelle? She asked. Chuka froze. He tried to deny it at first, stumbled over words. But Mira's eyes were steady, wounded, demanding truth. He sat down heavily and told her everything, his regrets, his shame. I'm so sorry, he said, his voice breaking. She meant nothing compared to you. Please forgive me. Mira cried quietly, not loudly, so deeply. The kind of cry that empties the soul. After hours of silence, questions, tears, she forgave him. Not because he didn't hurt, but because love sometimes chooses healing over pride. Life returned to routine. Chuka became open again. Honest, present, careful. Their home laughed again. Their daughters thrived. But Mira was human. Sometimes, when Chuka's phone buzzed, her heart skipped. Sometimes, when she was alone, the words replayed in her mind. Sometimes, trust felt heavier than before. She didn't bring it up. She didn't punish him with reminders. She carried it quietly, learning how forgiveness does not erase memory. It only teaches the heart how to live with it. Chuka truly kept his distance from Annabelle. Annabelle's calls came in waves, morning, nights. Sometimes, back to back, he ignored them all, let the phone ring, let it stop. He told himself silence was the safest answer. Then, one evening, his phone vibrated with a message. Just one. We need to talk. I'm pregnant. If you don't show up, you leave me with no choice but to find you and tell your wife everything. The words knocked the air out of his chest. Pregnant? His hands trembled as he read it again. And again, fear rushed in, fast and sharp. His mind raced. Images collided. Mira's face, his daughters, his home, everything he had fought to rebuild. He stood up, abruptly, pacing the room. Sweat formed on his forehead. This was a threat to his marriage. A ticking clock. He thought of telling Mira. He almost did. But fear stopped him. What if it wasn't true? What if Annabelle was lying just to trap him? What if involving Mira now would destroy everything they had painfully repaired, and he didn't want to break her heart a second time? I'll handle it, he whispered to himself. That night, he got dressed and told Mira he had an urgent work issue to attend to. The lie felt heavier than before. His voice shook, but Mira didn't notice. She was busy with the girls. As Chuka drove through the dark streets, his heart pounded wildly. Every red light felt like judgment. Every passing car felt like a witness. When he reached Annabelle's house, the lights were on. She opened the door slowly, her expression unreadable. "You came," she said. Chuka stepped inside, fear and anger tangled in his chest. "Are you telling the truth?" he asked immediately. "Are you really pregnant?" Annabelle didn't answer right away. She closed the door behind him gently. "We need to talk," she said again, her voice calm, almost cold. Annabelle walked ahead of him into the living room. Chuka followed, his heart pounding so loudly, he wondered if she could hear it. "Sit," she said. He didn't. "Annabelle, don't play games with me," he said, his voice low and shaking. "If this is a lie." "It's not," she cut in calmly. She picked up an envelope from the table and slid it toward him. Chuka stared at it before opening it. His hands trembled as he pulled out the test result. Positive. The room tilted. "I didn't plan this," Annabelle said, sitting across from him. "But it happened. And now, we both have to face it. And so you know, I am not getting rid of it." Chuka's heart sank. His mind screamed. This could not be happening. Not now. Not after Mira's forgiveness. Not after the promise he made to her. "You can't tell my wife," he said quietly. "Please." Annabelle studied him before speaking. I didn't say I wanted to destroy you, she replied, but I won't be erased either. Silence stretched between them. What do you want? Chuka finally asked. She looked at him, eyes steady. I want you to take responsibility. Not money thrown quietly. Not silence. I want presence. I want you. Chuka shook his head slowly. You know I am a married man. Yet, you still came, she replied sharply. We both crossed that line. Her words cut deep because they were true. Chuka stood up, pacing. My wife almost broke because of your message, he said. You have no idea what this would do to her. Annabelle's voice softened slightly. And what about me? What about this child? That word. Child. It landed hard. Chuka stopped pacing. His chest felt tight. I need time, he said weakly. Annabelle nodded. You have some, but not forever. As Chuka drove home later, the night felt heavier than before. The road blurred through tears he refused to let fall. Every promise he had made echoed in his mind. Every lie stood tall in front of him. When he reached home, Mira was asleep, one arm resting protectively over the girls. Chuka stood at the doorway, watching them, his heart breaking into pieces he didn't know how to gather. He had tried to bury one mistake, but it had grown roots. Over the months, Chuka had no choice but to become present for Annabelle. He checked on her constantly, asked about her health, paid bills, made sure she never lacked. Most nights, when Mira and the girls slept peacefully, he would step outside to take Annabelle's calls, whispering reassurance into the dark. How are you feeling today? Did the doctor say everything is fine? Please, take care of yourself. He told himself he was doing the right thing. Still, guilt ate at him quietly. Every smile he gave Mira felt borrowed. Every laugh at home felt undeserved. But he convinced himself that telling her the truth would destroy everything. So he carried the secret alone. Months passed. Annabelle's pregnancy progressed. Her voice changed. Her demands for attention grew firmer. Then the day came. Annabelle went into labor early that morning. Chuka was at the hospital, sitting alone in the waiting room. The air smelt of antiseptic and worry. His hands were clasped tightly together, his leg bouncing restlessly as the seconds stretched into hours. From time to time, nurses passed, their footsteps quick, faces unreadable. Every sound made his heart jump. Yet, in all of that, his heart was clouded with thoughts of Mira, the girls, home, and the secret sitting heavily on his chest. Then, the doors opened. A doctor stepped out and smiled. Mr. Chuka, he called. Chuka stood so fast. The chair scraped loudly against the floor. Congratulations, the doctor said warmly. Your babies are here. Babies? Yes, twins, the doctor continued. 2 healthy boys. For a moment, Chuka couldn't breathe. A laugh burst out of him, sharp and sudden. He pressed a hand to his mouth, then dropped it, unable to contain himself. Twins? He repeated, eyes shining. The very thing he feared he could never have. I have sons, not just a son, he screamed in excitement. Just as he jubilated, his phone vibrated in his hand. The smile on his face froze. It was Mira, his beloved wife. The screen lit up between his fingers, buzzing again, impatient. The hospital noise faded. The joy drained from his chest. Chuka stared at the phone and did not answer. Mira forgave once. What happens when forgiveness meets a secret this big? If you were Chuka, would you answer that call? Or let it ring and protect the home you already have?